I wasn't planning on starting this episode yet, but I just ran down because I wanted to find out if I had a white flipper bat to complete the set with the Williams logo. And look what I found. This is my used bin, but this does not look used. And look at this. There's even another one. So, looks like I am good to go. I'm Mike Dimas, and this is Pinball Shenanigans. Okay, I couldn't wait to get home to share this with you because this is just pretty cool. Like I said jokingly in previous episodes, that my pinball restoration is LEP, low-end pinball, not like Chris Hutchins' high-end pinball. I am the opposite. I'm just joking, of course. I mean, I am a little bit pinball on a budgety, but, there's some expenses that can't and shouldn't be spared. But here are the old apron cards, and I usually go with John G., who's overseas, and he does an amazing job, and I recommend him. He's on eBay, he does custom apron cards, and he is awesome. We've used him so many times. But just for today, I thought I'd try something different. I went to my local printer, I sent him the file, and I said, hey dude, do you think you can print off a copy for me? And I just got it right now. Here it is. Okay, look at that. That looks good. It's, you got to cut it yourself. It's not laminated. It's not on glossy paper. But, I mean, it's local. I sent him the email, and within 20 minutes he had it done, and I picked it up. And guess how much he wanted to charge me? 40 cents. John G's are about $15 to $20, depending on how many you order and how much you divvy up the shipping. 40 cents. But I'm like, dude, I gave him like $3, which is, I feel like I should have gave him more. But yeah, so, this is a pretty awesome option and very quick. So I can literally install my apron and these apron cards today. Oh, by the way, shout out to Kevin Graisley. It is his birthday today. I don't know if this episode will come out today or not, but yeah, so happy birthday, brother. And I'll be letting him know about this option. Oh, and one more quick shout out to pinballcards.com, my buddy Greg Benz, who actually designed these. And if you want these, you just go to pinballcards.com. He's got all kinds of amazing designs for all kinds of games. And, just kick him a little small donation, $1, $5, whatever it is. And he'll very much appreciate that. I used his card so many times over the years. I'm like, I owe this guy a donation. So just this year, I kicked him a $100 bill, and he's like, that is the biggest donation I ever got. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, Greg Benz, pinballcards.com. Okay, I'm back in the basement, and just as a brief summary, in the last episode, I rebuilt 2 of the 3 flippers and the 2 pop bumpers. And that pretty much was the bulk of the episode. And now I am planning on rebuilding the upper flipper. Now that I found 3 bats, by the way. So, and the logos on them are just ever so slightly different. So you got kind of like, circle is bigger and more raised, and the W smaller, so I don't know if one is reproduction. I mean, it looks old, doesn't it, right? So maybe Williams changed the way they printed their bats at some point. The ones that are on here are of the larger logo variety. So I'll just clean up this one and use that. So I have everything I need to rebuild the upper flipper. And guess what? Y'all will be very happy and proud of me. I started watching Demolition Man last night, but I didn't watch it all because I got tired. I'm about 45 minutes through it. I think it's about 2 hours long, so I'm starting to get it. So you got your Sylvester Stallone, what's his name? Spartan, John Spartan, battling Wesley Snipes. Phoenix, I think is his name, in a futuristic world of 2032 where there is no crime and swearing in public will get you a charge of 1 token. Oh, and I figured out the whole 3 seashell thing, but I cannot share that with you. I'll break the internet if I do. So you have to figure that one out on your own. MTL, I get now. So it was referenced very little thus far, and probably never again. It is the laser that cut Sylvester Stallone out of his cryogenic prison, his ice chamber. And I don't know, it said MTL on the screen, but it never actually said the words magnesium thermite laser. So my question is, very frequently in the beginning of the movie that I've seen so far, they reference when Wesley Snipes comes out of his cryogenic prison and starts like killing people. Sandra Bullock, what's her name? Huxley. She wants some action. It's a pretty casual world where she lives, and there's big distress because there was an MDK, murder, death, kill. And they reference that a bunch. Murder, death, kill, murder, death, kill. Like, oh, Wesley Snipes has performed an MDK. So that is way more visible in the movie than MTL. Why didn't they go MDK, huh? Do you think the license holder was like, oh, no, we don't want everything to be about murder and death and killing. Let's use something else. Or you think it was Williams' decision? Because it's clearly obvious that MDK just stood out in the movie way more than this very subtle MTL. So there's my hot take on that. And yeah, so there's your cryogenic prison that Sylvester was sentenced to 70 years in because him and Wesley Snipes were going at it in 1996 in the old times. And 30 innocent hostages were MDK'd in the battle between these two. And he's like a cop, and he got, in big trouble because civilians died, and he had to get frozen for 70 years. But they let him out a bit early because they had to sick someone on Wesley Snipes. So I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to figure it all out. Oh, and this claw is the mechanism through which all these cryogenic chambers get kind of like picked up and moved around. So that's what that's all about. I get that reference now. And, I guess that's about it for now. But kind of a horrible movie, but it's awesome at the same time. The whole, like, no contact greeting with the circular motion high fives. It's pretty cheesy. It's a lot of cheese, but it's good 90s cheese. I do appreciate it. Anyway, let's rebuild this flipper. Let's install my apron. By the way, I cleaned these metals and installed them. This was pretty filthy. I cleaned and installed that. So I think there's no reason I can't install the whole apron with my new apron cards. I'll do that maybe first because that's quicker and easier. Then move on to the upper flipper. Okay, just cleaning up this apron. It was kind of spotty and mildewy like the rest of the machine was, but this thing is actually pretty darn mint. I don't really see any wear. I just don't like pressing too hard because I have rubbed the paint right off of things before. Maybe not an apron, maybe a pop bumper cap. I think actually I have on an apron, come to think of it. But look at all these lines and letters. Like, is there any wear? This thing is beautiful. So, yeah, gotta love that. I'm gonna cut up some apron cards next. And it'll look a little better than that. How good does that look? I think it is beautiful. So, sorry, Johnny G. Your apron cards are amazing, and I love them, and I recommend everybody to go buy them. But I don't know, just having this local option for 40 cents, I mean, it's hard to pass that up. So that might be my new go-to source. But this apron is beautiful. These cards by Greg Benz are amazing. So I am very happy with how that looks. All right, I'm gonna deal with some nasty upper flipper rebuild action now. Get my fingers all black again. All right, flipper rebuild underway. I'm gonna just double check that all my coils are proper. I'm sure they are. This FL11 630s are a little weaker, I believe, which makes sense for an upper flipper. You don't need to travel as much distance. Oh, also, side note, on the Internet Pinball Database, I was snooping around the other day, and I'm like, oh, this is a friggin' Dennis Nordman design. And that makes perfect sense, because guess what else he designed with all kinds of crazy intertwiny ramps? Yes, that's right, whitewater. So that makes all the sense in the world. You got all this convoluted wire forms and ramps, like, let's see, you got this ramp, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plastic ramps, 1, 2, this is a two-part, so 3, 4, 5 wire forms. So yeah, very Nordman-y, wouldn't you say? So that was a bit of a revelation. So the usual filth, it's a little more awkward because everything's behind this wire harness. I'll clean up that filth before I reinstall. And then this is what I'm dealing with over here. The old sleeve, old bushing, old stop, concaved as expected. The flipper bracket, it's filthy. Now I don't have a third new end of stroke switch, so I'm just going to clean this one up. I think it'll be fine. And oh yeah, so the other strange thing that I've discovered about this plunger and link, do you notice anything different about this? Well, it's the link. Look at it. It's been shaven on the edges there. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let's try and get a better look. See that? It's been narrowed down. Why has that been done? Has that been done at the factory for some reason, or is that something someone did after the fact? You know what I mean, Vern? Like, here's what it's supposed to look like. See if I can get a good comparison here. Nice rounded edges. So why is that? Do I need to shave down these edges? I friggin' hope not. So, I mean, is there any more or less travel? Let's see. Is that why? We can practically go 90 degrees with this guy, but not so much with this guy. There is definitely a difference there. I think I'm going to have to do a quick bit of research because I don't want to install this to find out that I need to shave down my link. Otherwise I can't make the friggin' shots. So that I'll have to report back on. Okay, I ran into a tiny little hiccup here, but I'm glad I noticed it. This end of stroke switch that I was going to reuse, I was cleaning it up, and maybe just my act of cleaning it caused this to happen, but I was using a Dremel brush. I mean, I wasn't putting that much pressure on. But there's this big contact point there. And let's see if I can demonstrate this. If I get my finger on it just right. Look at this. It is loose. Loosey-goosey. That, being a crappy contact, could easily blow out a fuse and or transistor and or melt a coil, depending on how well the machine holds up. I mean, it's just supposed to blow a fuse, but if you're holding up your flipper and that ain't making good contact, then that's going to be bad. So I have this other end of stroke switch from the lower flipper, and if I clean this up ever so beautifully, I can use this one because it is not spinning. So that's something to look out for that you may or may not have expected. And I made a post about this on Pinball Repair Help Group that so looks after the fact. So it makes me wonder. I can't imagine that being factory. We'll see. Alright, I got all this assembled, and I've determined that the extra angle on that link would technically allow a little bit further of a throw, as kind of predicted. But, I mean, you're going to be hitting the coil stop. That is the end of the limit, no matter what. So, I don't think this link is going to be an issue at all. I think, for whatever reason, someone decided to shave this link, and I think it was all for naught. So, I think I am good to go. And this end of stroke switch is all cleaned up and good to go. So, yeah, all right, time to install everything. All right, just to confirm, the solenoids for the lower and upper flippers. We got the FL11629s for the lowers, which are blue, and the FL11630 for the upper, which is red, so that's good to go. I do have one question though. I thought all double wound coils had 2 diodes. This one does not appear to have a second diode, but the lower flippers do, and pretty much all double wound coils as far as I understood. So why am I missing a diode, or is that okay? So if you know the answer, let me know. But maybe by the time you let me know, I've already figured it out. I mean, I could just kind of look in this bin, possibly find another Williams coil and compare, but I can almost guarantee that if I find another red Williams coil, oh boy, that's heavy. This is not hard. I mean, not easy on the hand. Ow, okay, let's never do that again. 2 diodes. So why is that missing a diode? It does not look like one's been broken off. So I need to write that on my list to investigate further. Okay, Gavin Lepew, thank you. He messaged me on Pinball Repair Help Group and said that it is kind of better if there is a diode there, but on the Fliptronics systems, which Demolition Man is, Williams added a set of backup diodes on the board, so you don't really need it. And that's why this appears as though there never was a diode on there, because it just doesn't look like there was ever one. I don't see like an old leg sticking out anywhere. That definitely has been soldered though at some point. Maybe that wire broke off. Maybe there's an old diode leg in there. Maybe I should desolder that and investigate further. Yeah, so for whatever reason, this wire was resoldered back on at some point. Maybe it broke off, because the other two, they look very factory to me. But I cleaned everything off. There's the old solder down here. And that's just, I was dragging the solder along, so it kind of made a long line, but there is no old diode legs in here. Believe me, that's just solder. It's not a leg in there. See? What did I tell you? No diode legs. Alright, let's actually stop getting sidetracked. Oh, before I forget, I mentioned earlier it was Kevin's birthday today, but also shout out to Dutch. It is his birthday tomorrow. So hopefully get to see the boys this weekend and party it up. Anyway, I've got this all installed and a stroke switch adjusted nicely. I did tighten this to the point where both metals were touching basically. So I want to make sure that this flipper bat does not move on me. And then I got thinking I should probably do the same to the uppers. So they're on there nice and tight. I don't think that metal might be touching, but I mean, you can see this Allen screw here is a little bit arched. That's what happens. This guy, definitely not straight anymore. So hopefully that holds up. And I don't know, should I trim these end of stroke switches a little bit more? I just don't want them getting hung up on anything because they're a little longer. I could afford to snip off another 1/8 maybe. But yeah, everything's cleaned up, assembled, installed, dialed in, and a stroke switch soldered in. That was awkward. Can you see here? Yeah, imagine me trying to solder wires to the end of stroke switch. Good thing I was at least smart enough to do that before installing the coil and the coil stop. And have a look. The new flipper bat is installed. I think I've got it aligned nicely. Got a little bit of up and down give, and it looks just as beautiful with the same big logo as my lower flippers. So, and also did not disappoint. I got pretty filthy, cleaned up a little bit. But yeah, I can finally end the chapter on flippers and pop bumper caps. I mean, pop bumper assemblies. So, not sure what I'm going to do next, but got a little bit more time. Maybe I'll figure out another last thing or two that I can do before ending this episode. Okay, just doing what I can. There's not a whole lot left, I don't think. Installed these back plastics, but I don't want to do too much because, you know, there's a socket down there, these sockets here, there's a socket down there. The more I install out of order, the more awkward things are going to get. And remember this long plastic here that had a tiny chip out of it? Well, I dealt with it. I just filed the end, make it nice and round, and I drilled a new hole. So instead of screwing into this post, it will now screw into that post, and that looks good. You know, that is completely sufficient. I may need a washer underneath here because it kind of looks like it might touch the flipper bat, but that is not a problem. So there's that. Okay, I'm pretty much at a roadblock. So I got thinking about some extra LED strips, maybe add them to the back board there with the trusses and whatnot, and maybe illuminate those. So I was digging around in my like miscellaneous LED stuff bin. Shout out to Wally16. I haven't talked to you in a bit. Hope all is well, but Wally16 sent me a lot of this stuff. And in this bin was this. This was part of the Wally16 package. Demolition Man kit strips. So I went to pinballbulbs.com installs and managed to find what it was all about. What do we got here? Is that just sticky tape, I guess. A couple zip ties. So what was in this bag was an LED like double-ended strip that was meant for like extra lighting coming out of your trough. Like one is kind of a longer one and would be mounted like along here, and then there was a short one that would mount here. Quinkadinkly, we have a long trough set truss. These trusses, roof trusses, just the whole industrial look, or is this kind of like the ceiling of the prison kind of thing? Anyway, whatever it is, I just crammed in here, just very half-acidly, the long LED strip, and then the short LED strip, and this guy. Now I did give it a quick test prior to putting them in the trusses, and one LED strip, sure enough, is blue. So I'm like, this is just too good to be true. I mean, the other one's white, so would be kind of cooler if they were both blue. So basically you just add the connector here, and then there's this little jumper connector tied to it, and then you stick that to the existing connector that was in there, and that's where you tap into the 12 volts. This is a super long cable because it's supposed to go all the way to the apron. So it's just all very dry fit, haphazardly in here. Check this out. But I thought I would check this out live for the first time and see if this is any good or it is just a bit of a disaster. So let's turn off my flash and have a look. Yeah, disaster. Just because the LED strips are kind of all over the place. But I can see the potential. If I adhere those to the ceiling, it might actually be pretty cool. So since I have an hour before I have to go, and really not a whole lot else I can do before I get my rubbers, I think I'll mess with this a bit more and see what I can figure out. Alright, I'm kind of getting excited about this mod. After all, I was not all that thrilled. I'm like, is this going to be a pain in the butt? Is it going to be worth it? But starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I had to cut off a bit of the strip here because it was too long. But here we go. Check this out. That is the roof, so the lights will shine down. As long as these LED strips, the adhesive holds, then I will be happy. And then here's the shorter one. I didn't need to cut that. And then we can install like so. Let's see, is that even going to fit? What's my problem here? I gotta loosen that screw. Well, the LED strip might be in the way of itself here. What is your problem? Okay. Oh, yeah, it is the LED itself. It is kind of in the way, I guess. Here we go. Well, I put it as far back as I could, but you can see the LED right there is kind of, the thickness of that's getting in the way. I think I can just still finagle that in there and it should be fine. And then this guy, that one fits good. Oh, because it's wider, so I was able to clear the whole area. I didn't realize that. That one's a little thinner. Okay, well that's dry fit at least. We can get an idea of how this is going to look. Let's see. Okay. Going to be white on the left, blue on the right. Let's see how this looks. Ooh, that looks pretty effing cool. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that. Yeah. Yeah, I dig it. I dig it. What do y'all think? You can kind of see the friggin' all the stuff behind the scenes there, you know, the flasher bulbs, the old holes from the old LEDs. But I think it's a net positive. And it's hard to get the complete overall effect because all the general illumination bulbs are removed. So let me add this. This would be my fake general illumination. So it might look a little more like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, there's not much left to do. Just kind of tidy up my wires and screw things down. So I'm going to leave that. Okay, I'd say that worked out pretty good. Used a couple zip ties. I made a couple spacers out of an old post rubber for that left side building, or trusses. And I'll show you how that turned out. So from this angle, cannot see any wires. Check that out. But just because the way this was sitting, with the LEDs in the way and this being narrower, I put a couple spacers under here to raise up the whole thing. Hopefully that doesn't cause an issue. And then for the back, pull that out a bit more so we can see in there. Let's see, so there's where the wire feeds out of that guy. And then I got it in that little handy wire clip that's right there. You can see the other side. And then a couple zip ties just to try and hold that in place. And then I fed it over into this other clip, which is also convenient. And then even further into one more clip, just to keep all the weight of this excess wire from pulling down on the LED strips and potentially, you know, tearing at the seam here. So there's really zero strain or stress on these wires. And obviously there's lots of excess. So moving the playfield in and out shouldn't be a problem. Let's see how close this is to the top now. Lots of clearance there, no issue. Okay, now that the playfield is fully in the cabinet, let's have one more look. Nope, it still works. There we go. Yeah, I gotta say, I am very happy with how that turned out. Almost tempted, actually, to fill those holes because they are visible, or at least paint the light portion of the wood black so you can't see them. Yeah, I'm a little bit picky that way, so I think I'm gonna get some paint on there, and then we'll be done here. All right, here we go. A little dab'll do ya. Just load that paint in there. Try and get all the insides. Don't need to be tidy about this at all. How's that look? You see any more white? I think that's good. All right, I think that looks better. Yeah, all right. Well, I'm pretty happy with that mod. That kind of came out of nowhere and was pretty friggin' convenient. So that's it for this one. We'll see you guys next time.